Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of Georges River Council. I declare the meeting open at 7 p.m. Acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters and sky in the Georges River area. I pay my respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who live, work and meet on these lands. If everyone could please stand for the National Anthem.
Strangers lost through joys, but we are born free. New golden soul and wealth for toil, God I see. The land of mountain nature gives all beauty, rich and fair. In history's page, every stage, love's a strand of joyful strings that cannot sing.
Please remain standing for the opening prayer, which tonight will be led by Pastor Darren Canby from the Revival Life Centre.
Madam Mayor, councillors, good evening and thank you for the opportunity to open your meeting in prayer tonight. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather and serve the St George community in this place. Your word reminds us that leadership is a sacred trust, and we humbly acknowledge our dependence on you tonight. I ask that you grant those assembled here tonight wisdom as they consider the matters before them. Give them discernment to make decisions that are just and fair, and help them to lead with integrity, compassion and courage, seeking not personal gain, but the well-being of those they represent. Lord, guard their words and guide all conversation. Where there are differences of opinion, we ask you to bring respect and understanding, and where there are challenges, please grant unity and clarity. We also and especially lift up the families of each councillor and staff member here tonight. Please bless their homes with peace, their relationships with strength, their hearts with encouragement. May the families also feel supported and valued as they also share in the responsibility of public service. May everything be done and discussed tonight bring honour to you and contribute to the flourishing of the Georges River community. We ask all of this in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Please be seated. We start with apologies. I have an apology from Deputy Mayor Councillor Stratokopoulos. Are there any other apologies? Can I please call for a motion to accept apologies and grant a leave of absence? Moved by Councillor Marnie and seconded by Councillor Domolsky. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare that carried. Request to join the meeting via audiovisual link. The new Code of Meeting Practice, which is now in place, provides very limited reasons for a councillor to request to join via audiovisual link, which is due to ill health or other medical reasons or because of unforeseen care and responsibilities. Councillor Mort has made a request to join via audiovisual link due to unforeseen care and responsibilities, and a medical certificate has been provided as evidence to support this request. If I could please call for a mover and a seconder to request that Councillor Mort be attended to join via audiovisual link. Moved by Councillor Jamieson, seconded by Councillor Marnie. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare that carried. Councillor Mort has now joined the meeting online. Notice of live streaming of the council meeting. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being webcast live on council's website. This recording will be made available on council's website. The order of business is as shown in the agenda. Council's Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of council. Disclosures of interest. I've received a few disclosures of interest, non-significant, non-pecuniary interest from Councillor Marnie on item CCL 00326, COM 00226, the quarterly community property report for the 1st of October to 31st of December, for the reason he's a member of the Colga Bay Progress Association, and Councillor Marnie will remain in the meeting and take part in the consideration of this item. Non-significant, non-pecuniary interest from Councillor Jamieson on CCL 00326, which is COM 00326, the T25-011 Ken Rosewell Tennis Centre Management Agreement, for the reason she went to school with the sister of the current Ken Rosewell management team. Councillor Jamieson will remain in the meeting and take part in consideration of this item. And there have been two subsequent disclosures submitted by Councillor Wang, non-significant, non-pecuniary, for the Beverly Hills Master Plan, for the reason this motion mentions the flood study, where his home and investment property are tagged for flooding in the flooding zone, and the flood study affects thousands of households. And so it's a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. The reasons are in the report. And Councillor Grau has disclosed a non-significant, non-pecuniary in CCL 00328, which is COM 00326, the Ken Rosewell Tennis Centre Management Agreement, for the reason that he learned to play tennis with Thandor Plathi, who has coached him in group sessions between 2008 to 2010.
I'd like to make a correction there, Madam Mayor, that I will be leaving the chamber upon the debate and vote.
So you're still submitting that, oh, you're submitting a significant, sorry, I misread that. It's a significant non-pecuniary, and so Councillor Gow will be leaving the chamber during debate on this item and will not take part in consideration. Apologies. Councillors, is there any other disclosures of interest on any other items on the agenda tonight? No? Okay, we move through to the confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. The first is CCL 00126. Confirmation of the minutes of the council meeting held on the 8th of December 2025, moved by Councillor Lansbury and seconded by Councillor Allison. Councillors, any discussion on the minutes? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare that carried. Next is mayoral minute, MN 00126, Georges River seeks to protect their heritage. So my mayoral minute is as published in the report. I just have some comments in relation to this mayoral minute. This mayoral minute is the result of the recent demolition of 49 Park Street, Carlton, which many in our community regard as having potential heritage value. The demolition highlighted the challenges councils face to assess and protect properties with potential heritage value when multiple state government planning instruments are layered upon each other. For this property, a complying development certificate was lawfully issued by a private certifier for the demolition of the existing dwelling and construction of 3 terrace homes. The CDC was fully compliant with the New South Wales Housing Pattern Book, which was introduced as part of the state government's low and mid-rise housing policy. So we have 4 state-level planning controls or approval pathways combined together for this development: compliant development certificates, private certified approval, the low and mid-rise housing policy, and the New South Wales Housing Pattern Book. A compliant development typically has a notification period of 14 days. And this is further reduced to just 7 days under the Pattern Book Development Code. What this means is it leaves council with the slimmest of windows to temporarily protect a property via an interim heritage order. And once the consent is granted, as can be the case in as little as 7 days under the Pattern Book Code, an interim heritage order or a subsequent heritage listing cannot prevent demolition in accordance with that approved consent. So this highlights the need for council to undertake a broader heritage study to proactively identify properties with potential heritage value so they can be protected before they are lost. And this is what my Mayoral Minute is calling for. Councillors, is there anyone who wishes to speak to this Mayoral Minute? Councillor Arthur.
I would like to speak against, if I may, Madam Mayor. Look, in the spirit of brevity, I won't talk for too long, but you know, I support heritage protection where there's a genuine heritage concern at play, but I can't square that with your Mayoral Minute tonight, Madam Mayor. You know, the report references 49 Pike Road, Carlton, as an example of the sort of property that needs some sort of heritage protection. But looking at the images available of that property online, it's near identical to a number of properties, dozens, if not hundreds, in our LGA. I don't see any sort of heritage unless it's about people who live there or some sort of below the surface heritage. I don't see what about it has such value that we cannot approve a development there. And, you know, I don't mean this as a slight to the director, who I know is working hard to get our numbers turned around. But as long as Georges River remains the slowest council in Sydney for development approvals, there will be a natural incentive for developers to find alternative pathways. I think we should be worrying about improving our numbers, not finding loopholes around state government programs like a patent law.
Thank you, Councillor Arthur. Any other councillors wishing to speak to this Mayoral Minute? Councillor Lansbury.
I'll speak for it. Okay. Thanks, Madam Mayor. I wasn't planning on speaking for it, but I feel the need to do that now. The thing about heritage is it's something that once it's gone forever. You know, some of us are old enough to remember the fights that people like Jack Mundy had to save the rocks. And if he didn't do that, and the people that were involved in that campaign didn't do that, just imagine what the rocks would be. It'd probably just look like Barangaroo. What a great shame that would be. We've got 3 heritage conservation areas in the LGA. I don't think that's a huge impost on the rest of the LGA to preserve where we originated from. Some of the houses might not, you might not consider, Councillor Arthur, to be very contributory, but the people that live there do. If they don't want to maintain heritage property, then there's probably quite a strange place to buy property in the first place. The one in Park Street, Cogra, was a great shame to see that go. It will be replaced by the cookie cutter duplex, I think, that we're seeing pop up all over the LGA. Now, I personally don't have a problem with duplexes. I think they're a great way of increasing density, but I also think to lose the heritage aspect of a place like that, which was beautiful, and there are very many other properties in the area, unfortunately, they may not come to council's attention until it's too late, as is detailed in the Mayor's Mayoral Minute. I think to endorse the study, to actually see where we might have missed things or the actual heritage value is a really appropriate thing to do at this time. I have been very supportive of increasing housing supply, just because, you know, I might not represent the Labor Party anymore doesn't mean that's going to change, but I think I've always advocated for appropriate development in appropriate locations, and I for one don't think heritage conservation areas and heritage properties should make way for things like 4-story apartment blocks or duplexes. I think it's a great tragedy when those sorts of developments, well, those sorts of contributory items are gone forever. And that's what happened. Once they're gone, they're gone. I think you'll find that most of the new duplexes and things like that probably wouldn't ever attract some form of heritage down the track in 50 years' time. I can't imagine that they would. They won't have that sort of longevity. But Federation, Art Deco, California bungalows, which there are a lot of them in our community, I would always advocate to protect that sort of thing. I'll always advocate for responsible development.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. As a right of reply, I will respond to some of the comments from Councillor Arthur. I think my Mayoral Minute is about process. It's not really up for you, me, or anyone else here to have an opinion as to whether or not that particular property had heritage merit. The point is that there was not the opportunity to assess whether it had heritage merit, and that is what the current layering of the state government controls prevents council from having the ability in a timely manner to do. So it's not about whether or not we believe that one has heritage merit, and there's plenty others like that. This is calling for a report to assess items that may have potential heritage merit and getting a heritage expert to do that assessment so that they can be protected into the future. So it's not a subjective view. It's just this instance highlighted where there is a lack of opportunity for council to use an instrument such as an interim heritage order to conduct the assessment. In saying that, I will put my motion to the meeting, which is that council endorse the commencement of a broader heritage study to identify properties within the Georges River local government area that may warrant further heritage assessment and potential inclusion on the heritage register. Request that the general manager prepare a report to council outlining the scope, methodology, timeframes and resources required to undertake the broader heritage study, and note that the findings of the heritage study will be reported to council for consideration of any future amendments to heritage listings or planning controls. So I'll put that motion and I will go around the room for a vote. Ms McKinley, if you could please take. Councillor Wang.
So can I make an amendment?
No, sorry, I've already put the motion. So I've taken the right of reply. So I've put the vote. Ms McKinley, if you could please
Madam Mayor,
take the vote. I'm for the motion.
Councillor Allison,
For.
Councillor Anzalotti,
Against.
Councillor Arthur,
Against.
Councillor Demoski,
For.
Councillor Gow,
Against.
Councillor Hayes,
Against.
Councillor Jamison, for. Councillor Lansbury, for. Councillor Liu, for. Councillor Marnie,
For.
Councillor Mort,
For.
Councillor Pun,
Against.
Councillor Wang.
Against.
It's 8 votes for, 6 votes against.
I declare the motion carried. We move to condolences. Councillor Marnie would like to offer his condolences on the passing of Heather Goodall. Are there any other condolences, councillors? If not, Councillor Marnie, please move your condolence.
Half minute. Thank you, Madam. Sorry about that. Heather Goodall AM sadly left us on the 29th of January 2026 in the presence of her family. Heather was an accomplished historian, author and environmentalist who grew up in Padstow, attended St George Girls High School, graduated from Sydney University in 1975, having won the medal in history, and who maintained strong ties with the LGA. She gained her doctorate in 1982 for a comprehensive research into New South Wales Aboriginal communities and attained the title of Emeritus Professor at University of Technology, Sydney, Sydney's Faculty of Arts and Social Science in 2016. Heather was generous with sharing her extensive knowledge of Indigenous culture and history and geography, notably oceans and rivers, and advocated strongly for a variety of better outcomes for the environment and the Indigenous in Australia and overseas. Heather was a prolific author whose works included Invasion to Embassy, Land in Aboriginal Politics, New South Wales 1770 to 1972, which won the 1997 Premier's Prize for Australian History. Of local significance are Rivers and Resistance, Aboriginal people on Sydney's George River, with Alison Cadzow, and George River Blues, Swamps, Mangroves and Resident Action 1945 to 1980. Heather authored other books, e.g. The Many Lives of an Extraordinary Aboriginal Woman, awarded the Margaret Medal for biography in 2005, Beyond Borders, Australians and the Indonesian Revolution, Making Change Happen, and Teacher for Justice. She also contributed to several auspicious journals such as Conservation Society. Councillor Mort and I were honoured to meet Heather at a History Week event at Hurstville Library in 2022 where she was guest speaker. In 2023, along with other councillors, I was fortunate to catch up with her again at a Friends of Glenlea event in Lugano, where she put forward compelling arguments in favour of preserving the estate. In 2024, Heather was awarded the Member of the Order of Australia for her extensive contributions to tertiary education and to the Indigenous community. Later that year, she was guest speaker at Council's historical George River Cruise. Heather also participated in campaigns against environmental destruction with the Sydney Needing and continued her work up to the time she became ill with motor neuron disease, having begun research for yet another book on swamps along the George River, which made reference to the efforts of Oden West resident and fellow activist Dr. Sharon Cullis. Heather's loss has left a huge void. However, her legacy has set an example for present and future generations who will fight for meaningful and decisive action on serious environmental matters and Indigenous welfare. Heather's funeral was held on 5th of February and was attended by Councillor Allison, myself and other Oden residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mahoney. Councillor, if there's no further condolences, if we could please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. Councillors, at this point, I'm going to move a procedural motion that the order of business be altered to allow items of business to be adopted in bulk as recommended. The items of business is as follows, and I believe they will be up on screen. And I will read out the item numbers. CCL 00226, ASS 00226, ASS 00326, CCL 00326, COM 00226, COM 00426, CCL 00426, sorry, I think I read one wrong. COM 00426, EMB 00226, EMB 00326, CCL 00526, FIN 00226, FIN 00326, FIN 00426, FIN 00526, FIN 00626, FIN 00726, FIN 006A26, CCL 00726, CCL 00826, and CCL 01226 and CCL 01126. So that's a procedural motion that those items, that the order of business be altered to allow those items to be considered in bulk. Councillors, are there any items that councillors wish to have withdrawn for separate consideration? No. Okay, well, I will move that, and seconded by Councillor Jamieson. Councillors, all those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare that carried. We will now move to the motion to that those items of business be adopted in bulk as recommended with no discussion or alteration here too. I won't read out all the numbers again, but it's the ones that we just read out. Councillor Jamieson is moving that motion. If I could call for a seconder. Councillor Liu has seconded that. So I'm going to put the motion, that is that the items of business be adopted in bulk as recommended with no discussion or alteration thereto. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare that carried. So the first item to be discussed is then COM 00326. That's the report of the Community and Culture Committee meeting held on the 9th of February 2026. and it is COM 00326 T25001 Ken Rosewell Tennis Centre Management Agreement. Councillor Lansbury as the chair. Would you like to move that item?
Thanks, Madam
Oh,
Mayor.
sorry. Yeah, you had a. Yeah, you had the significant. Sorry, Councillor Gall. Yeah, you do. You have the significant on this item. Sorry, Councillor Gall. We'll just wait to vacate the chamber as he's declared a significant non-pecuniary interest on this item.
Okay, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm moving an amendment to this item. It should be appearing on the screen, but I will read it to you. The amendment is that in accordance with Section 178 of the Local Government General Regulation 2021 New South Wales Act, I think that should read, Council accepts the tender from the current service provider Evolution Sports Proprietary Limited for T25/011 Ken Rosewell Tennis Centre Management Agreement for the management fee detailed in the confidential attachment 1 to this report, Part B, that in accordance with Section 178(1) of the Local Government General Regulation 2021, Council note that the tender evaluation did not demonstrate material benefit in transitioning to an alternative service provider. Part C, that the General Manager be authorised to execute the contract with Evolution Sports Proprietary Limited on behalf of Council. And Part D, that the unsuccessful tenderer/S be advised of Council's decision.
So it's been moved by Councillor Lansbury. Councillor Jamieson, you seconding that motion? Thank you. Councillor Lansbury, do you wish to speak to this?
I do wish to speak to that. I would also like to thank the speakers that we had at Public Forum last week, urging us to take this course of action. I'm very happy that we're actually able to do that. We have certain processes we have to follow in council, for probity reasons, etc. We have to follow the tendering process, and it has to be very transparent. It has to be very deliberate. However, it cannot measure community sentiment and qualities like that. The number of people that have contacted us as councillors over the last couple of weeks, I guess, as well as the speakers that we had last week, have indicated that the community is very much of a mind to retain the current operator and provider, and I would wholeheartedly support that. I think it's really appropriate that we do that. As I said, you can have a tendering process that's weighted and certain standards and thresholds that have to be met, but it cannot measure certain things. And I'll give you a great example. Going back to the good old days of Cobra, we had Coal Bay Bowling Club, which we as councillors took quite great pride in removing the poker machines, which I'm always going to take that opportunity to say that was my idea, and turning it into a family-friendly venue. Unfortunately, the lease was up whilst council was under administration, and the administrator entered into another arrangement which excluded the community. It was a really popular venue that was very busy every night of the week, with local families being able to walk down, and we're kind of locked into that particular arrangement for a little while yet. But that always comes to mind, that even though it might have met certain thresholds about financial aspects of it, and it might have met certain criteria, it didn't meet what the community expectations were. And I think in this instance, my understanding that they were very, very close. There was not much, if anything, between the two tenderers, and therefore it seemed like an extra step that we probably don't need to go through to have the general manager negotiate with both parties, when the representations we've had from the community kind of expect us to act in their interests. And I have had nothing to do with this operator. I don't know them. I've never met them, but the number of people that have contacted us as councillors in the last couple of weeks urging us to reconsider any change to that arrangement has confirmed my view that this is the right course of action that this recommendation suggests tonight. So, councillors, I would encourage you to consider supporting this amendment, because I think that our community will be very pleased with the outcome if this is successful tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. Councillor Jamieson as the seconder to wish to speak to this motion.
Yes, just briefly, it is with absolute great pleasure that we bring this amended motion forward. Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. I would like to sincerely thank the speakers who addressed the previous council meeting, Dennis Biden, Anita Lewis, David Orton and Graham Ross. Their contributions were both insightful and impactful. It was particularly eye-opening to hear how critical Sandor Platy had been to this tennis community. These are precisely the reasons I chose to join council, to ensure a community continues to benefit from dedicated community-minded individuals such as this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jamieson. Councillors, any councillors wishing to speak against the amendment? No? Any other discussion? I've had 2 speakers for. It's all good? Okay, if there's no further discussion, I will put the motion. Councillors, all those in favour say aye. All those against?
Aye.
I declare it carried. Our next item is CCL 13525. That's a deferred report from the 8th of December 2025 council meeting on closed circuit television in Georges River. Councillor Lansbury.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm actually moving the recommendation that appears on the business paper, and I just wanted to speak to it.
Okay, I'll call for a seconder. Councillor Jamieson has seconded that motion.
This is coming from a similar perspective to the item that we just dealt with. We deferred this from late last year, and we discussed it at the committee meeting a couple of weeks ago. I feel that we actually heard from the president, I think, of Penshurst RSL sub-branch at the public forum last week, who spoke very passionately in support of this. Again, what ties in with me and the last item is that it's like a matrix or an assessment tool that can be very clinical. It doesn't also take into account, it can't take into account community sentiment and the nuances that we as councillors get to know from working with the community. It may not be a part of current policy now. What this particular policy, the recommendation is calling for this to go out on exhibition. It also is calling for us to endorse the assessment tool. That's fine. The policy is actually going out on exhibition, not the tool. And what I would encourage people to do is, if you have a view on this, please make a submission, because if submissions are in favour of issues like supporting Penshurst RSL's view, which I personally think is a completely reasonable thing to do, they have approached council and asked council if they can pay for it themselves, and from my perspective that would involve, my understanding, there's privacy requirements under the legislation, etc. But if Penshurst RSL was to finance it, council would be the owner of the images, which would be wiped, I guess, every 30 days. And God forbid there was an incident, it would be referred directly to the police. So I can't imagine there would be any privacy impacts on anybody who, I mean, where the memorial is located, it's a little bit away from everything else. It's next to the railway line. It doesn't have structures either side. So it's not going to be imposing on somebody's backyard for argument's sake. And the way that the world has evolved, every second house has got CCTV out the front of their house anyway. Where I live is on the back of a laneway, and just about every house in my street has got CCTV projecting into, I hope I'm not dobbing people in, but projecting into the laneway. They're doing that for security purposes, and I'm quite sure that they would only feel the need to call on that if there was an incident, and hopefully it acts as enough of a deterrent that people won't commit any acts of vandalism or anything like that. So the purpose of me wanting to speak to this today was just to say that it is going out on exhibition. There might be the capacity to slightly amend the policy when it comes back if there is sentiment from the community that, yeah, we would like to allow organisations like Penshurst RSL, for example, to and grant them landowners consent to install CCTV to protect their memorial, because we don't want to be in a situation where something happens and it's like that old saying of shutting the stable door when the horse is bolted. It's too late then once the damage is done. even if it gives you a peace of mind, I think it's worth doing, and it's certainly worth investigating. I have asked the questions myself: is there anything legally that would prevent us from doing it? And it is the Privacy Act which needs to be considered. But I would like to encourage everybody to please support this going out on exhibition as it is. And if there are members of the community that do feel strongly about this, please do make a submission, because we need to hear from you. That's our role as councillors. The council officers kind of handle the technical aspect of these things. We engage with you and carry out what your desires are for the community and how you want our community to operate. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. Councillor Jamieson, do you wish to speak for the motion? Any councillors wishing to speak against this motion? If not, I will put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against? I declare it carried. Our next item is Environment and Planning, CCL 00626, endorsement of council submission for the draft Sydney Plan, Industrial Lands Policy and a new approach to strategic planning discussion paper. Councillor Marnie.
I'd like to move the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. If I could call for a seconder. Councillor Lansbury. Thank you, Councillor Marnie.
And also, I'd like to ask the Director of Environment and Planning, Mr. Hill, to give us an overview on that paper, please. Thank you.
To the Director.
Madam Mayor and councillors, I'll do this in reverse order if you like, because what I'm about to say is really a local government perspective on what's supposed to be a visionary plan for Sydney. It might come across a little bit of local government versus state, but at the end of the day, our submission is much more targeted at taking the matter forward. So my synopsis of the plan itself. It's supposed to be a 20-year plan. It's looking at 1.2 million people additional turning up in the next 20 years. That's through to 2045, 20 to 25% increase. The plan itself, however, is very weighted to the short term. And for those who've been around for the last couple of years, we note that the short term planning reform has led to a lot of housing supply, and that's very much the focus of this plan, embracing the short-term actions. What that means is, holistically, and this is the opportunity for to develop a plan for Sydney that is truly visionary. It stunts leadership. It reduces the ability of strategic planning to bring across best practice principles around sustainability. What really should be doing is tying together key state agencies and schools, education, health, waste, and the likes, and mapping out our vision over 20 years to get us to 2045 whilst embracing housing supply at the same time. It's evident that the infrastructure planning is not there. It's evident that infrastructure planning should be led by the state. However, the ultimate implementation of these documents lies with councils. So there's a rather large void of state agencies in these documents. In terms of the implementation, it relies heavily on councils developing a local strategic planning statements, and councils happen to be very good at doing that. However, the ability or the confidence council has in delivering a document like that, and for that to be followed through by state agencies and local government itself, is left a little bit wanting. It doesn't have the statutory weight that what could have been afforded to this Sydney Plan document in the same manner. So I do say it's a little bit in reverse order because it comes across a little bit cynical. There's a missed opportunity here to drive a visionary Sydney Plan. It leaves too much reliance on local government without the requisite documents to enforce changes, and it essentially encapsulates housing supply and what's happening. The submission itself is much more cherry than that. It recommends about 20 to 25 recommendations of identifying issues and actions taking it forward. That's a collective viewpoint of our adjoining councils in the Southern Sydney region, our head peak, our peak planning body, the PIA, Planning Institute of Australia, it's the same attitude. Councils want to be inside the tent to affect some change, and that's the big ask. And hopefully that comes across more in the submission if you haven't had some time to read it than my synopsis just then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Councillors, is anyone wishing to speak to this item? No. If there's no discussion, I will put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against?
Aye.
I declare it carried. Next, we move to CCL 00926, Cars Park Pool Project Variation. Councillor Jamieson.
Thank you. We do have a variation, so I move the recommendation with a minor change that refer to the confidential attachment 1 version 2. And I request the General Counsel to provide a summary of the variation.
And just if I could just call for a second, Councillor Lansbury is seconded. Yep. And if the General Counsel could just provide an overview of what the variation is in that updated project agreement.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since the publication of Council's agenda for this meeting more than 10 days ago, Office of Sport provided a further variation or proposals in a variation to the project agreement, which detail amendments as follows: amending the definition of designs in the project to include the project scope and request for tender design package as at 80% of the design. This is because of the Office of Sport's view that it will simplify the process for approvals for the remaining 20% of the designs. And there is a consequential removal to other references to the other design documents in the project agreement. The second amendment is to insert a new obligation on the Office of Sport to report any major deviations from the designs to Council to offset the earlier mentioned changes to the definition of designs. And the third change is to remove the reference to the contractor from provisions which deal with the sitting of members in the project control group, given that the intention of the PCG is to discuss the progress of the contractor and issues arising of their performance of the construction contract. This would be difficult if the contractor is sitting on the PCG.
Thank you for that overview. Councillors, is there anyone wishing to speak to this item? I'll just make some brief comments that this variation to the project agreement between Office of Sport and Council is largely an administrative update to reflect the functions of the project control group and the steering committee, which are overseeing the development of the new aquatic centre. I can provide the update that the project is progressing well and is on track for delivery in late 2027. And residents would have seen machinery on site recently, as well as the Office of Sport signage that's been erected for the project at the site. So watch this space. It is progressing forward in a positive manner. And on that note, I will put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against? I declare it carried. Next, we move to Assets and Infrastructure, CCL 01026, Shivers Hill Shopping Centre Public Amenities Location near the car park exit feasibility report. Councillor Mort is the chair of the Assets and Infrastructure. Would you like to move that item?
I will move that item.
And Councillor Marnie will be seconding that.
Thank you.
Councillor Mort, do you wish to speak to the item?
Not at this stage. I reserve my right. I'd just like to move it move the recommendation as published.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie, as the seconder. Do you wish to speak to this?
You said you moved it.
Councillor Anzalotti, do you wish to speak?
Yes.
Against. Okay, we'll let the speaker speak for, and then we'll come to you afterwards. Councillor Marnie, please go ahead.
Thank you. In February 2024, after being approached by several residents, I put forward a motion requesting that Council undertakes a study to assess three things: the level of community in demand, the feasibility of construction, and the costs associated with delivering new public amenities at Shrewsbury Shopping Centre in Lugano. The motion was unanimously supported by council. Tonight, we have the results of that study. The findings on community demand were inconclusive. Some residents supported the proposal while others did not. However, the engineering findings regarding what could actually be constructed at the site were clear and conclusive. There is no viable solution that would not create significant negative impacts, whether to amenity, biodiversity, parking availability, or pedestrian safety. I also want to highlight an important comment from the director. The delivery of a public toilet in Lugano at Shivers Hill would set a precedent that could reasonably justify similar facilities in up to 15 centres across the LGA. This includes 8 small village centres, 5 village centres and 2 local centres, Oakley West and South Westville, both of which are higher order centres not located within or adjacent to train station precincts and which also do not have toilet facilities. If council determines that public amenities should be provided in Lugano and by extension potentially in these other centres, that is of course a decision we can make. However, once constructed, these facilities must be serviced and maintained daily. The unpractical way to fund this increased level of service and the associated operational costs would be through a rate increase for all of our residents. Personally, I would not be comfortable asking all residents to pay higher rates to fund this. Even if construction were feasible and based on the expert advice, it clearly is not. Providing toilets at Shivers Hill, which is classified as a village centre, would be inequitable when larger centres without such facilities remain without them. As someone who enjoys coffee and regularly spends time in the many excellent cafes across Pecos Ward meeting constituents, friends and colleagues, I've never encountered a cafe owner or have heard of one who has denied access to their facilities for genuine customers. I want to emphasise that what I originally requested was simply a study. We now have those findings, and based on the evidence presented, I support the recommendation that council not proceed with constructing public amenities at Shivers Hill Lugano. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ansell, do you wish to speak against?
Yeah, I do. Madam Mayor, tonight's recommendation, let me flip this. Tonight's recommendation asks council to do something very simple. It actually asks us to give up. And after years of advocacy, consultation, community expectations, collecting close to 500 to 600 signatures, which were emailed to council, we are being asked to accept that a basic public toilet at Shivers Hill Shopping Centre is simply too hard, it's too expensive and it's too complicated to deliver. I don't accept that, and neither should you. Because this is not really a debate about infrastructure. It's a debate whether small communities receive the same dignity and basic services as everyone else. Local residents, older people, families and business owners have asked for one thing: a public toilet. It's not a landmark project. It's not a prestige development. It's a basic amenity, okay, that allows people to stay, shop and participate in their community. Yet the recommendation before us is to walk away. The primary justification is really the cost. We're told that the facility, it's painful, will cost $736,000. Madam Mayor, with a basic public amenity that carries a price that high, the responsible response is not abandonment. It's actually the responsible response here is to just actually scrutinise that cost. The New South Wales Legislative Council Public Toilets Report, which is published under Portfolio Committee number 8, back in October 2025, provides clear statewide benchmarks. So the upper house of our parliament actually conducted a study, went out to all the different LGAs in New South Wales, and they've got some figures and it's published. So new public toilet buildings typically range from $80,000 to $200,000 depending on the size. What we're asking for in Lugano, they've come in on average across the whole of New South Wales for the build. I'm talking bricks and mortar, not the plumbing and everything else that's quoted separately in the recommendation, to come in at $280,000 to $310,000. That's $200,000 less than what is in our report. So Lugano is actually being presented with cost of this $736,000 for a single accessible facility, and it's significantly above those benchmarks. Put that into perspective, for the proposed cost outlined in the feasibility report, council could actually hire a Portaloo and park it up at Shooters Hill for approximately 17.5 years. That comparison should tell us something's not really right. So the question before this chamber is simple. Have we really actually explored smarter, more affordable options, or have we accepted a high estimate as a reason to not proceed? So other councils deliver modular or prefabricated amenities for a far lower cost. Presenting this community with a binary choice accepts an extraordinary price or receive nothing. It's not responsible governance. Throughout the report, we've been presented with obstacle after obstacle, and the residents and the shop owners have come back to me and they said, Councillor, it's actually excuses. Parking loss, classification issues, safety concerns, environmental impacts, and the concern that providing this facility may set a precedent. Madam Mayor, precedent should not be feared when it reflects genuine community need. If other local centres also lack basic amenities, the precedent is not the problem. It is evidence of a broader service gap. Public infrastructure should be guided by need, equity and accessibility, not by fear that communities might also ask to be treated fairly. Councils are elected to resolve challenges, not list them. Residents already walk across the car park every day when they park their car to get to the shops. Environmental considerations can be managed. Difficulty is not a justification for inaction. Consultation matters. When residents are asked whether they support a toilet or if it means losing parking, the outcome is predictable. That framing turns a community need into a trade-off before genuine solutions are even explored. And many residents now feel the process led them towards rejection rather than a resolution. Let's not remember our local businesses. They need this toilet. They should not take the burden of what council will not provide them. It's just not fair. It is not sustainable. Madam Mayor, councils, public amenities are not luxuries. They are fundamental, basic civic infrastructure. They signal whether a community is welcome, accessible and inclusive. Tonight's vote is not simply about a toilet, it's about whether this council chooses to progress or postpone it. A vote to reject this recommendation is a vote to keep working with the community toward a practical solution. A vote to support this recommendation is a decision to close the door after years of advocacy and tell the people of Lugano that request ends here. Okay. The greatest failure before us tonight would not be spending too much. The greatest failure is choosing to do nothing at all. So I ask you to vote against this recommendation for the people of Lugano.
Thank you, Councillor Anzalotti. Any other councillors wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Pond? Yes, Councillor Anzalotti, just turn the microphone off. So you're speaking against the motion?
Yeah, thank you. Councillors, I just want to echo my fellow councillors' remarks. The residents, I am picking up a pattern in some of the consultation that I and my colleagues have had with our residents, and I just want to put it to the other councillors: if we don't bring these projects, these initiatives for fun, it's not for entertainment, is to highlight what we see and hear in our jobs as councillors that is important to the community. That is why we do it. If we are faced with challenge after challenge, bureaucracy after bureaucracy, about hurdles as to why we can't do it, whether they're funding, whether it's priority, whether it's budget, then the residents need to know. The residents need to know, because it's what is the point of our job here if we cannot clearly articulate why it's being knocked back or what the reasons are. We don't do it for fun. And I think it's getting long in the tooth about what projects are out there and the reasons why our priorities can't be highlighted and delivered to this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pond. Any other discussion, councillors? Councillor Lansbury, you wish to speak?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I have a question for the Director, which it appears within the report, and Councillor Anzalotti mentioned it quite a few times, the estimated amount to construct this of $736,000, which is extraordinary for something on that scale. It wasn't clear to me, even though I've read the report, it wasn't really clear to me how those costs accumulated to that extent. I mean, I think the block itself might be, you know, 250,000 or whatever. Is it all the stormwater relocations, all of those sorts of service connections. Is that the reason why it would get to that figure?
To the director.
Thank you, and through the chair. Well, I don't have the full breakdown of the $736,000. There are conflicts between the water main and the sewer, which has to travel to the rear of the shops. So there's a 100-metre run for the sewer. I believe it's to do with services, but I can take it on notice and provide a full breakdown to councillors.
Thank you. Any other discussion, councillors?
I will actually speak if that's okay, Madam Mayor, and I'm going to speak in support of the recommendation. Last time round, I spoke, well, actually, I wrote the amendment so that we kept this one alive, if everyone remembers that. But the whole point of it was to get the feasibility of it. Well, it sounds to me like it's not very feasible, and it's really disappointing because I think that it would have been a great addition to that group of shops. But I, for one, can't support something that's going to cost $736,000 when we've got to fight like alley cats to get footpaths in our wards and things like that. I can't support it. If it had come in at half that cost, I probably could have been persuaded to, because I actually wanted to see this built, because I really genuinely believe that council is in the business of service delivery, but we also have to be really responsible financially, and to commit to something like this when we've got that sort of figure in front of us at this point in time, I don't think we can. But I would make a suggestion that, you know, government funding is always something that council could potentially seek. And as there's a state election in about 12 months' time, whoever is going to be the candidate for Oatley may view this as something that they could allocate funding for. That'd be a great option. So just putting that out there.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. I'm just going to speak in support of the motion and address the comments around the capital investment to build the facility. For me, that's, yes, that might be a high cost and it could be to do with the services, but the capital cost to construct the project is not the reason that I won't be that I will be supporting the recommendation. It is more about the level of service that we provide to the community, and at present we don't provide a service where there is a public amenities in our small local villages, or even small local centres, places like Oatley West and South Hurstville, which are much larger than Lugano. We don't provide a public toilet facility. So the cost to construct something is one factor, but the cost to then service it and maintain it and clean it daily is where the actual operating cost comes into it. And if we are to construct this at Lugano, we then wouldn't really have a reason to justify not also constructing it at all those other centres. And if we then have 15 additional toilet facilities to clean on a daily basis, that can't be funded out of the current operational budget. And, you know, we'd be looking at having to go to things like a rate rise just to fund that. So I will be supporting the motion as is. And if there's no further discussion, I will put the motion. We might go around the room for the vote.
Madam Mayor.
I support the councillor's recommendation for.
Councillor Allison.
For.
Councillor Anzalotti.
Against.
Councillor Arthur.
Against.
Councillor Mosky.
For.
Councillor Gow.
Against.
Councillor Hayes.
Against.
Councillor Jamison.
For.
Councillor Lansbury. For. Councillor Liu.
For.
Councillor Marnie.
For.
Councillor Mort.
For.
Councillor Pun.
Against.
Councillor Wang.
Against.
8 votes for, 6 votes against.
I declare the motion carried. Next, we now move to notices of motion. The first is NM 00126, active transport. Councillor Marnie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Jamison.
Thank you, Councillor Jamison. I'm sure we'll look across the definition of active transport, which is to use some form of exercise, be it walking, running, cycling, or using a scooter to get from point A to point B, whether that be for work, school, shopping, catching a bus or train, visiting or recreation. It is more social and often safer than using a car. Bayside, Canterbury, Bankstown and Sutherland have extensive networks, and our LGA obviously needs to catch up with them so that our community can enjoy similar infrastructure. It has been a long road, pun intended, but given that active transport across New South Wales only receives between 0.1 and 2% of state transport funding, I'm sure that council will strongly advocate for more dollars to plan and build new networks. I look forward to council taking an effective lead here, as I wouldn't like to see planning for this essential and enjoyable form of transport turn into a meaningless election pledge, as we saw during the 2023 state election campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mahoney. Councillor Jamieson, do you wish to speak to the motion? Any other councillors wishing to speak for or against? If not, I will put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Declare it carried. Next is NM 00226, State Significant Developments. Councillor Jamieson.
Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Mahoney. Yes, go ahead, please.
There is no question that housing is a critical issue. There is no question that we need to address this issue. However, the state's government approach is not transparent. The community calls on the New South Wales State Government to reconsider the current approach to high-density development proposals that allow 20-storey buildings in areas currently zoned for 6 stories, particularly with such proposals trigger rezoning across entire precincts. While we acknowledge the urgency of addressing the housing crisis, this must not come at the expense of appropriate planning, infrastructure capacity, community wellbeing and sustainable living. My concerns include inappropriate scale and density, proposal for 20-storey developments in established 6-storey areas fundamentally alter neighbourhood character and set irreversible planning precedents for surrounding suburbs. The examples we have is the Nawi Pub and Mortdale RSL. In regards to the Mortdale RSL proposal, it raises even greater concerns. There has already been significant community backlash following the Mortdale Master Plan and subsequent RSL plans. Both the local planning panel and the regional planning panel rejected earlier proposals, determining that they were not appropriate. This raises an important question. How does a project previously rejected by all experts get classified as a state significant development without adequately addressing those earlier findings? Why would developers feel so much more comfortable to seek approvals on proposals that far exceed previously rejected proposals? Existing roads infrastructure strained, existing roads, public transport, schools, health services, open space, drainage and utilities are already under pressure. Rapid upzoning without confirmed infrastructure delivery risks worsening congestion, service shortages and declining livability. Lack of genuine council involvement. Local councils understand the community's infrastructure limits and local housing strategies. If the state government is sincere about planning reform, councils must have meaningful involvement, not limited to 2-week consultation windows after key decisions are effectively made. Affordable housing must be real, not theoretical. True affordability is undermined when residents in large developments face excessive strata and special levies due to pure certification, construction defects or inadequate regulatory oversight. Without fixing the certifying compliance systems, higher density does not equate to affordable living. Local solutions are being overlooked. Councils across New South Wales, including RM, have developed housing policy and strategies to increase supply in a planned, sustainable way. These efforts should be supported and integrated, not overridden. Transparency and public trust. When planning decisions move at extreme speed and scale, communities understandably question transparency. Genuine reform requires public confidence that decisions are made in the public interest, free from undue influence and with clear accountability. Our council is not alone in these concerns. At the recent Local Government New South Wales conference, it was evident that there is widespread concern about the state's approach to housing and density. The Premier did not receive a particularly warm reception, and numerous motions were raised by councillors seeking greater input into where density should be located and how growth should be managed. These included Labor councils who clearly believed that their responsibility was representing the community to the state government. The federal government performed a livability study not that long ago, and this quite clearly seems ignored with the Sydney plan. The motion calls on the New South Wales government to 1. Ensure meaningful and extended consultation with councils on major density increases and rezoning proposals. 2. Align development scale with confirmed infrastructure capacity and delivery timelines. 3. Commit to real affordable housing outcomes, including stronger regulation of certification and building compliance. Work collaboratively with councils and communities, not impose blanket solutions that ignore local context. And 5, restore public trust through transparent, fair and sustainable planning processes. Planning reform should be a scalpel, not a machine. We support housing growth, but not at the cost of livability, accountability and long-term community wellbeing.
Thank you, Councillor Jamieson. Any other councillors wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Pun?
Yes, I'd rise to speak against it, if I may, Madam Mayor. Councillors, I don't know where to start. Housing is the biggest challenge that this nation faces. It's the remit of both Labor governments at federal and state. It is the single biggest downward pressure on the economy and the challenge for this next generation. I think we need to remind ourselves, as I've said before in this chamber, that we need to be opening up what we can do for the next generation and those that can't afford it. Opposing things like this, building these things, asking for more consultation time just adds to that length. I'm asking this council to seriously look at how it can improve its own processes. The saddest thing that I saw last year, was when a resident of mine got knocked back for a DA because they're just building a new garage, or a new driveway. And I said, what do you want? I've tried, what do you want me to do? They said, you know what? They'll just move out. They'll just move out of this area. And we need to stop that. We need to be ensuring people want to live here. I've grown up here all my life. And it pains me to hear that people that think they can still be here or they want to make an opportunity here are thrown out because of the red tape and the bureaucracy that they experience. It's tough. It's tough hearing that from people that I've grown up with or have seen or come across or we're family friends. It's difficult. And I think we just need to accept that the Sydney that we grew up with, it's not a museum. It's not just, I get the heritage thing, but it's growing. We're a global city and we need to accept those challenges, and that we need to accept that the place that we've grown up will change, and it will change for the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pun. Councillor Mahoney, you wish to speak for again?
I'd love to speak for. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. A precursor to state significant developments was New South Wales government's unveiling of its low and mid-rise housing policy during the 2023 Christmas holidays, so there was minimal public feedback given to the bureaucrats. Such almost instant pathways with unrepresentative panels have replaced the expertise of esteemed council planners and input from locals in affected neighbourhoods, which appear to favour developers over communities. Residents are genuinely concerned about the loss of council and community involvement and the spread of luxury high-rise developments where a couple of units might be donated under the guise of affordable housing is not enough. Ignorance about the term affordability is also widespread. This is exemplified by a discussion I had with a rather prominent MP in 2024 who questioned my opposition to the development of Glenlea with, but where are all the people going to live? I politely advised him that multi-million-dollar waterfront homes were definitely not affordable for nurses, retail staff and firefighters, and I doubted that they would ever be used for social housing. I much appreciate Councillor Jamieson's initiative in placing this on the agenda. As a former volunteer with charities which assist the underprivileged and as a retired community worker, I'm also genuinely concerned about the housing crisis and applaud any steps which will improve the lives of the less fortunate, which leads me to the state government's commendable Build Homes for New South Wales program, and I quote, the $6.6 billion investment is the largest made by New South Wales government into social housing in the state's history. It will fund new social housing properties, improve maintenance of public housing, and boost homelessness support services. The best news I've heard in years, and I'm thrilled that the program will be a particularly immense benefit to the Indigenous women and the homeless. I'd like to ask the question to the Director, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Has the state government indicated to council how much social housing it intends to build in the Georgia River LGA under the Building Homes for New South Wales program? And if so, what are the applicable timeframes? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor and councillors, no, I'm not aware that the state's indicated their intention to build in Georgia River Council.
Anything else, Councillor Marty? You finished? So we've had 2 speakers for, 1 speaker against. Councillors, any other discussion? You want the right of reply? Councillor Wang, are you speaking against?
Yeah, just briefly, if I may.
I'll allow one more speaker against.
Yeah. So I just want to make it clear. So this state government, SSD and HDA, they just came in last year. The reason they came in, not because they wanted to, but they have mandate to deliver the house, to fix the house crisis, and to engage, as suggested by Councillor Jameson, to re-engage with the council again for every application. That just introduced another layer of bureaucracy. And the reason the state government stepped in was precisely because the council has failed to deliver the house and the development opportunity. So we need to get the logic right. It's because of the council's progress, and the delivery was too slow and too little, too late. That's why the state stepped in. And if we don't fix, if anything needs to be fixed, it's the council, it's ourselves. Otherwise, there will be more and more step in from the state. So that's what my motion was going to come up with. The Beverly Hills Master Plan is a primary example. For 10 years, the council couldn't deliver a master plan. So that's why the state introduced lots of SSD and HDA in Beverly Hills area. So this is going to happen. That's the reason. So that's the reason. So this one is put the cart before the horse. That's my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, any other discussion? Councillor Lansbury?
Can I speak, please?
I've had 2 speakers for, two against. So I will ask Councillor Jamieson if she wants the right of reply. Councillor Jamieson? I've had 2 speakers for and 2 against, so I'll stick to the. So if you take the right of reply or put the motion.
So I just think there might be a bit of confusion with what strategic planning is and DAs. I appreciate that there is a problem with DAs. I've got one myself, and I know since the amalgamation we've had Kevin Green and Nick Catchers, both Labor mayors, that didn't actually deal with it, so it's gotten bad, and I acknowledge that. And I appreciate that we're currently trying to fix that. But I think ignoring local council experts, that strategic planning, why do we have planners in the first place? There's also the question that I ask, and it's in regards to the Woolworths proposal that we discussed. And I believe that the people that are speaking against this motion at this moment were in favour of not rejecting it. But this is where transparency gets questioned. When this Woolworths proposal had less housing than the current zoning, then the question is, what are we actually supporting? And that's what we've got to look at. What is planning? What is livability? This is why London was burnt down to actually have planning, so we can have livability. It's actually proactive and actually thinking about livability. Otherwise, it's going to end up with ghettos and holes. I mean, Malta, to have a 20-story building in 4 stories, you can't be serious. Like, that can't be. That's basically making the whole city units. So I think we really need to think carefully of what strategic planning is. So I'm not asking to go through a DA, I'm asking for the strategic planners to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Before I put the motion, I'm going to just address the comments around development applications, and you would have seen in the news recently that council has reduced its development application timeframe by 40%, and so that is on a downward trend. This motion is calling for greater input of council into development. So we have other motions on the paper tonight, wanting greater transparency and information provided to the public on other motions, and this is basically saying that it's asking for council to have meaningful say. It's not asking to slow things down, but if you're the person who lives next door to the proposed 20-storey development, I think you would like to think that your council would have had the opportunity to put forward an opinion on that, and that is what we should be doing, is representing our residents. We're not rejecting the need for housing supply. We're not making it more difficult. We're asking for councils to have meaningful involvement in these state significant developments. As it stands currently, council gets the same 2-week public exhibition period as the community does to provide submission on these proposals. And if you could imagine, for a 20-storey development, that's a lot of assessment that'd be required by the technical experts, which is really quite difficult to achieve in a 2-week time frame. So I'm speaking in support of the motion, and on that I will put the motion. If we could please go around and take the votes.
Madam Mayor?
For.
Councillor Allison?
For.
Councillor Anzalotti?
Against.
Councillor Arthur?
Against.
Councillor Demoski?
For.
Councillor Gow?
Against.
Councillor Hayes?
Against.
Councillor Jamieson?
For.
Councillor Lansbury?
For.
Councillor Liu?
For.
Councillor Marnie?
For.
Councillor Mort?
For.
Councillor Pan?
Against.
Councillor Wang?
Against.
That's 8 votes for, 6 votes against.
I declare the motion carried.
Madam Mayor, my colleague here is talking. Could you please say something?
If I could just please ask members of the public gallery, we have signs on the wall asking that the members of the public gallery please be respectful to other members of the public gallery, and to keep your comments to yourself to keep the meeting in order. Our next item for discussion is
Madam Mayor, does that apply to councillors too?
Yes, it does, Councillor Marnie, thank you. The next item for discussion is NM 00326, that is traffic calming devices at Waratah Street, Blakehurst. Councillor Demoski. Councillor Demoski, you can move your motion.
I'm moving the motion here.
You move it as published?
Look, I just wanted to make a little changes or amendment.
Sorry, yes. You would like to make a minor amendment? Yes.
Yes. Basically, the intent of this motion is to simply ask for a closer look at this issue and request that a report to be prepared with the findings so far, so council can make an informed decision. So I want to change and rephrase the motion.
And have you provided that wording to the staff? Otherwise, if you want to just
I have not.
You have not. Okay, Councillor Demoski, we have to do it now then. So that council calls for a report on the installation.
So that was my original.
What's on the screen is your original motion.
Yes.
And do you want to change to say
I
that?
just want to change it. I'm seeking a report of.
Council calls for a report on the installation on appropriate traffic calming devices.
Just a report of the findings so far, because this issue has been.
So it says the council calls a report on the potential installation of the on the appropriate traffic calming devices on council. Yeah, of appropriate. Yeah. Just read that out, Councillor Dmowski.
Council, that the council calls for a report on the potential installation of appropriate traffic calming devices on Warrington Street, specifically for the continue for the consideration of the council.
Council calls for a report for the consideration of council.
Council, so we can have an informed decision next time we're discussing this issue.
After report for the consideration of council.
Oh.
Council calls for a report for the consideration of council on the potential installation of appropriate traffic calming devices on Waratah Street, specifically from the corner of Merriman Street to Mooney Avenue.
Can we remove a potential, just installation? Please, thank you. Okay.
And Councillor Lansbury, you seconding that motion? Are you seconding that? Yes. Okay, please go ahead.
So yeah, basically there's work underway with this issue. Basically, I wanted to with the appointment of the new director and the management, I believe this is an appropriate time to bring renewed attention to the concerns raised by the residents regarding Waratah Street. And basically my request is that the new director and management review the matter with fresh perspective and undertake an assessment of the current situation alongside with the preparing the report of whereabouts things are and for us to take into consideration for the next meeting. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Councillor Dmowski.
I'd like to move an amendment to Councillor Dmowski's motion.
Okay, Councillor Dmowski, Councillor Gao, your amendment.
Madam Mayor, my amendment is actually Councillor Dmowski's original motion, which he put forth to council tonight and as published in the business papers. I'd like to move an amendment tonight that council install appropriate traffic calming devices on Waratah Street, specifically from the corner of Merriman Street to Mooney Avenue. It is exactly as what Councillor Dmowski had originally proposed to council tonight, and it is published in the council business papers for tonight as well.
Thank you, Councillor Gao. Councillor Dmowski, do you accept that amendment?
No.
Okay, so Councillor Gao, I need to call for a seconder for your amendment. Councillor Arthur has seconded that. Does anybody wish to speak for or against the amendment?
I'll speak for the amendment.
Okay, yep, speak for the amendment. Have a question. I'll let Councillor Gao speak for the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, this is another long-standing issue of this LGA. I know it is in the Blakers ward. I know Councillor Lansbury has told me that I must stay in my lane. But when residents come forward to me, when residents come to local elected representatives with issues, our job is to be attentive and listen to them and actually try and get things done and get things moving. Whilst Councillor Dmowski, credit is given where credit is due, it is true you did go out there and meet with a couple of residents, as I did, as myself and my team have over the last couple of months as well. What we don't want here is a merry-go-round where residents' issues are continually kicked down the road, just like kicking a can down the road. This is a long-standing issue that residents have been asking for, that residents on Linwood Street and Waratah Street have constantly and consistently written to council over many years, pleading this council to address these issues. Now, Councillor Dmowski, I was 100% ready to support the motion unanimously tonight. Had you not made that amendment, I am purely just fearful that this will get lost again in more reports, and who knows when will these issues actually get addressed? And I just also want to remind the elected council here tonight that I originally put forth this motion 4 months ago, back in October, having worked with local residents on the motion and I understand that many residents that night on Waratah and Linwood Street had tuned into that council meeting. At that time, maybe this council was mistaken about the issue. And henceforth, Councillor Demoski, Councillor Lansbury and Councillor Mort, as Blakehurst Ward councillors, you opposed my motion back then outright. I was very glad that 4 months later, Councillor Demoski had put forth basically the same motion that I tried to move at this council 4 months ago. This is purely about getting it done, purely about making a start. So hence why I move an amendment of your original motion, Councillor Demoski.
Thank you, Councillor Gow. Councillor Arthur is the seconder. Do you wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Lansbury, wishing to speak for or against?
I would like to speak against the amendment. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Well, I do really appreciate the interest that Councillor Gow has taken in Blakehurst Ward and has street meetings and door knocks in Blakehurst Ward. I would like to remind everybody here that there were 3 of us that were actually elected to represent Blakehurst Ward, and we were aware of this issue. And before you jumped onto the issue, Councillor Demoski was already working with council officers to come up with some solutions before you had your street stall and did your door knocking and did all of that in somebody else's ward. And yes, I have suggested to you that you stay in your lane, because part of the reason of that is that generally the councillors who represent that ward have a better idea of what's going on. And also would like to remind you, Clause 10.9 of the Code of Meeting Practice. A motion or an amendment to a motion which, if passed, would require the expenditure of funds or works and services other than those already provided for in Council's adopted operational plan, must identify the source of funding for the expenditure that is subject of the motion. If the motion does not identify a funding source, the Council must defer consideration of the matter pending a report from the General Manager on the availability of funds for implementing the motion if adopted. Now, I think that this was possibly just an oversight by Councillor Demoski. His intention was for as he said, to have the new director have a look at this. And of course, you know, you've jumped all over it because it's exactly the sort of motions that we've rejected of yours time after time after time, because they're effectively unlawful. So now we have a lawful motion with an unlawful amendment. I absolutely reject the amendment that you've put up. And, you know, the the Blakehurst Ward councillors are quite capable of taking care of traffic issues in their ward, and I suggest you probably look to your own ward, Councillor Gow, with the assistance of the Kogarah EO. And when somebody in Blakehurst Ward goes to Kogarah EO with an issue in Blakehurst Ward, they didn't go to the elected Labor councillor, they went to Councillor Gow. So as everybody in this room knows now, I'm not a member of the Labor Party, but I'm quite sure that the level of support that I've had from residents of Blakehurst Ward would indicate that they probably won't be going to you, Councillor Gow.
We have a speaker for, a speaker against. Anybody else wishing to speak to the amendment?
That's a right of reply, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, right of reply only sits with the original mover of the motion, which is Councillor Demoski. So if there's no further debate on the amendment, I will put the amendment. If we could please go around the room for a vote on the amendment.
Madam Mayor.
Against.
Councillor Allison.
Against.
Councillor Anzalotti.
For.
Councillor Harper.
For.
Councillor Demoski.
Against.
Councillor Gow.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
For.
Councillor Jamison.
Against.
Councillor Lansbury.
Against.
Councillor Liu.
Against.
Councillor Marnie.
Against.
Councillor Mort.
Against.
Councillor Pun.
For.
Councillor Wang.
For.
That's 8 votes against the amendment, 6 votes for.
I declare the amendment lost. And we revert to the original motion as put by Councillor Demoski. If there's no further discussion on that amendment, I will put, sorry, on that motion, not the amendment, I'll put the original motion as moved by Councillor Domowski and seconded by Councillor Lansbury. If we could please go around the room to take the vote on the motion.
Madam Mayor,
For.
Councillor Allison,
For.
Councillor Anzalotti. For. Councillor Arthur.
For.
Councillor Domowski.
For.
Councillor Gow.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
For.
Councillor Jamison.
For.
Councillor Lansbury.
For.
Councillor Liu.
For.
Councillor Marnie.
For.
Councillor Mort.
For.
Councillor Pan.
For.
Councillor Wang.
For.
14 votes for, unanimous.
I declare that motion carried unanimously. We move to NM 00426, the Cooks River Alliance. Councillor Allison. Seconded by Councillor Marnie.
Thanks, Madam. Sorry, Dad. Firstly, I'd like to thank Peter Munro, who kindly attended and spoke to our forum last week in support of Georges River Council rejoining the Cooks River Alliance. Peter is one of those irreplaceable citizens who dedicate vast amounts of their spare time to a cause worth fighting for. In Peter's case, it's caring for country in and along the shoreline of what used to be the most polluted river in the country, the Cooks River. As the Cooks River Mudcrab, or Muddy, as they're affectionately known, Peter could be leading a group of volunteers picking up litter from amongst the mangroves one day, or planting natives in a revegetation site another, and or perhaps doing a few hours of weeding maintenance at one of the many reserves that lines the river. With a rigorous training program and fastidious attention to public safety responsibilities, their activities don't require the attendance of a council supervisor. This means that they save their respective councils money while providing a service that makes council look good, but does not require council to fund. I first met Peter at Miracle Golf Course, a public course that occupies both sides of the Cooks River. The clubhouse is their local, and with their influence, the club does things differently. It wants to be recognised as a golf club within a forest. To anybody who has or who miraculously still plays the frustrating game of golf, this may sound problematic. Golfers generally find trees to be a right pain in the bottom. They change the course of your killer shot in a heartbeat, adding to your score, where the object of the game is to have a low score. So why would you want to plant more trees along the fairways and into forgotten corners of the course? Because the management of the golf course aren't idiots. They understand that public land on a golf course scale is subject to the will of the ratepayers, and that tying up public land for an elite few certainly seems unfair. With the expectation of councils to increase the tree canopy cover to 40% throughout their LGAs by 2036, there was ample opportunity to revegetate the margins of the course to help with this goal. They also host plenty of community events to ensure the public look with favour on this asset and support the club to continue its advocacy and maintain its viability. But I digress just a little. For good reasons, I want to know the benefits that cross-fertilisation can have from one council to another. Getting back on track, our LGA is dominated by the ridgelines of Forest and Stony Creek roads. 77% of our council area's rain falls on the southern side of this ridgeline. This means that 3/4 of our stormwater courses through our leafy suburbs and flows into the Georges River and Saltpan Creek to the west as its tributary of the Georges. Together with the involvement of another 6 local councils and Sydney Water, our council helps fund the important work Georges Riverkeeper undertakes and has done since 1979. The Riverkeeper cares for the Georges and its foreshore by acting to remove litter from the river, arresting sediment from reaching the river, regenerating bushland and revegetating wasteland to improve the green corridors of the river to help protect native flora and fauna all along the Georges River. You may ask yourself what happens to the rain that falls on the less leafy northern sides of the ridgeline. The curbs and gutters of this part of our LGA don't flow towards Georges. Instead, the stormwater, with all its contaminants, flows into the Georges River Valley. This accounts for a substantial 23% of our total LGA draining into the Cooks, carrying litter, sediment, weed propagules and anything else that happens to malinger in the upstream gutters of our urban catchment. Who looks after the Cooks River Valley, I hear you ask? Well, every council that conveniently drains their stormwater into the Cooks River. That would be Bayside Council, Canterbury Bankstown Council, Inner West Council, Strathfield Council, and of course Sydney Water.
every responsible council except us. I must say that the former Cochrane Council was a member up until amalgamation, when the administrator and the general manager at the time turned their back on collective responsibility and declined to pay their fair share of funding the Cooks River Alliance. That's a whole decade where GRC has been given a free ride and contributed nothing to the Cooks River except the contents of our stormwater pipes. To be a member of the Cooks River Alliance doesn't just come with a kudos of shared responsibility or caring. With all the other member councils, it brings citizen science expertise to a whole new platform for our council. It comes with a slightly different way of doing things, where volunteers can enjoy a certain amount of autonomy to carry on important environmental works for the betterment of the Cooks and the Georges River. It will mean that we have a means of sharing goodwill and knowledge when it comes to applying for funding from government bodies to improve our environment. As a member council, we should not be trying to reinvent the wheel on matters of improvement. We should be reaching out to other member councils who seem to be on the right track in certain areas for a better performance in environmental and cultural matters. The knowledge and wherewithal is within our grasp, so let's hop on board, make an annual subscription and return to the fraternity that continues to improve what used to be the most polluted waterway in Australia. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allison. Councillor Marnie, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was very disappointed when council withdrew from the alliance about 9 years ago during the administration period, when there were no councillors to debate the issue, as was the case with Coal Bay Bowling Club mentioned by Councillor Lansbury earlier tonight. I believe it is incumbent for all councils that share a catchment to contribute to the cost of ensuring that the waterways remain clean, as is the case with George Riverkeeper, where Councillor Allison and I are representatives. In the spirit of equity, community involvement and education, and most of all, a cleaner Cooks River, I firmly believe that council should investigate rejoining the CRA. And I sincerely thank my biggest ward colleague and staunch environmental advocate, Councillor Allison, for putting forward this notice of motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillors, any other councillors wishing to speak to this motion? Councillor Arthur?
Very briefly, if I may, I suppose for the motion, Madam Mayor.
I've had two speakers for. So
may I say against them?
If you're going to speak against, I
seconds.
disallowed you earlier on, and I disallowed Councillor Lansbury earlier on as the third speaker for. So just trying to remain consistent. If you have a question, you can put a question. But I have had two speakers for. Sorry, just trying to remain consistent.
I'll save it for another time.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Well, Madam Mayor, I do have a question, just building on from Councillor Arthur's sentiment to the director. Through you, Madam Mayor, how much do you estimate the cost of membership to this Cooks River Alliance?
To the Director of Business and Corporate Services.
Madam Mayor, I'll take that on notice.
Take that on notice, okay. Councillor Wayne, question?
Yeah, quick questions through you, Madam Mayor. For this first, thanks for Councillor Addison. I fully support that one. So I just listening to the story. I'm very concerned, very interested in the flood study related to Cook River, because as you know, the Beverly Hills is part of the Cooks River, and when we join this alliance, would that help with our flood study, around Beverly Hills other area? So that's my questions for you to the director.
Hill, would you like to take that question? The question
Sorry,
is,
Madam Mayor, Council, I understand the question. How our involvement with this alliance overlaps with the flooding issues identified in Beverly Hills. I'll have to take that on notice and put it into, if this passes into the report that comes back to council as requested. Thank you.
Thank you to the director. Councillors, we've had two speakers for. If there's no speakers against, then I will put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Councillor Moore?
Aye.
All those against? I declare the motion carried. Next, we have notice of motion 00526, regulation and safety of e-bikes. Councillor Marnie, And who is seconding that? I didn't see. Councillor Allison seconding it. Councillor Allison. Okay, Councillor Omani, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In 2024, New South Wales recorded 226 injuries caused by e-bikes. From January to August 2025, the figure jumped to 233 injuries and 4 deaths. Those are only the figures currently available, and I hate to think about the actual number of casualties which haven't been published yet. 2 weeks ago, the ABC reported that e-bike casualties treated in St Vincent's Hospital in 2024 actually doubled in 2025. Half of those necessitated admission and 10% went to ICU, with common injuries being broken bones, deep tissue wounds, organ damage and brain trauma. Eminent St Vincent surgeon, Associate Professor Anthony Grabs, has stated that many bikes have been illegally modified to boost power output. Casualties are hospitalised for up to 8 weeks, and tragically, that most of the accidents were preventable. I could stand here and go on for my full time and quote even more sobering statistics and facts, but I know that you're all across the total menace on our roads, to use the words of Federal Health Minister Mark Butler, which continually endangers and confronts pedestrians and road users, including e-bike riders themselves. I sincerely thank the Director for his comments and our council staff who ran an education program which addressed safety risks and legal issues involving e-bikes, following my notice of motion at the March 25 meeting on e-bikes and e-scooters. I therefore urge both state and federal government ministers, MPs and department heads to take careful note of this resolution and similar moves by other jurisdictions, and immediately tighten up regulations and implement enforcement so that younger and older generations are spared from any needless tragedy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Omani. Councillor Allison, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Cycling is a rite of passage for children to broaden their horizons and develop confidence in their own ability to navigate a wider sphere. This seems like a gift for childhood development, but battery technology these days has taken kids on a different trajectory altogether. E-bikes perform beautifully as an easier, pollution-free way to get out and about in our hilly neighbourhoods, allowing people of all levels of fitness to literally get back on your bike and keep another car off the road. They operate quietly without polluting our air. What's not to like about them? Well, non-compliance e-bikes become pseudo-motorbikes with their overpowered, non-pedal, throttle-driven and illegal overriding speed arresters. They are fast and manoeuvrable, but above all dangerous. These bikes feed mischievous/criminal behaviour of pre-licensed younger folks, some younger folks, emboldened when operating in a pack mentality, as they are difficult to administer, let alone police. But police they must be, and the state and federal governments need to act now, not after, as more adventurous citizens, can face injury and death. I fully support Councillor Marnie's on regulation and safety of e-bikes.
Thank you, Councillor Allison. Councillor, anyone wishing to speak against this motion? Question, Councillor Wayne?
Thank you, through you. So, first of all, I fully support this motion. Second, we had a trial at the previous term for the e-bike, and this is quite a lengthy motion. So I just want to say, what sort of value? Ask a question to the director. What sort of value from the local council from this motion to the state and the federal? Because the state, both the Labour government and opposition, they are also already implementing all sorts of measures to control e-bike. And I would have thought, so if we can add any value, it has to be from the the study we did, the report we did. So I didn't see specifics from that the outcome of the study. So the question to the director is, so what sort of value we can add through this motion from our
Councillor Wang, I think we did a trial on e-scooters, which this motion, I think specifically in relation to e-bikes, and our trial was on shared e-scooters. I think this motion is speaking to privately owned e-bikes. And I think the role of this motion is advocacy from council on behalf of our community, calling for reforms around safety and regulation. So I don't think the findings of our study on a trial of shared e-scooters that had technology embedded in them to prevent them from exceeding particular speeds and restricted them to specific geographic areas really relates to this motion.
So I was saying, because I thought that the e-bike and the e-scooters, they have similar, power or usage or risk. And
so our trial was on shared e-scooters, which had technology embedded in them that restricted the speed, very different to the private e-bikes and private e-scooters, which this motion is addressing, which they're restricted on our roads, but they're prevalent everywhere.
Okay, so yeah, so if the director can, help just answer that one, that would be good. So it will be a loss if we cannot add any value from that one. I would say that there's some value one way or the other from the trial. Single to private. What's the major difference? Shared or not? There must be some safety is always the top concern, isn't it?
So the question that you're obviously not accepting my answer, that this is unrelated, and you want to ask the director
if we can add any value from our trial report from the shared e-scooter or not. Yeah, that's the question.
To the Director of Assets and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, we have provided Transport for New South Wales all of our data in relation to the scooter trial that was undertaken in this LGA, and we are yet to receive a response from the state government in terms of what has happened with that data.
Thank you. Okay, so we've had 2 speakers for, no speakers against. If there's no further discussion, councillors, I will put this motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against?
Aye.
I declare it carried. Next, we have NM00626, Beverly Hills Master Plan. Councillor Wang.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I sort of already started this conversation at the previous HDA motion. So this
Councillor Wang, are you just moving the motion as published?
Yes.
So I need to call for a seconder before you can finish the motion.
The second, please.
Councillor Pan, you're seconding the motion.
Thank you. So also I have raised numerous motions related to Beverly Hills Master Plan, either through the flood study or the pipeline and the rest of it. So the reason state has introduced HDA as SSD was because, in my opinion, the council has failed the community of Beverly Hills through the master plan of a decade. The residents and the business owners of Beverly Hills has been waiting for certainty, and what they have got is just cycles of proposals, objections, and retreat and workshops. So, but the result is devastating for the business. There's very clear and continuing decline of Beverly Hills town centers. 9 businesses has ceased trading. Shop brands is vacant. The vibrant high street ones is now slipping away because we have not finalized our strategic framework needed to unlock the potential. So I know the director's comments about the action in my motion will not accelerate or materially advance the master plan because the work is already underway and will be presented in the coming months. That's exactly what I'm worried. That's exactly what the community is concerned, because we always hear these pipelines, due course, and for the past 10 years. So, with great respect to the staff, maybe resource constraint or whatever, So in the coming month, it's not a timeline. It's a pretty much open-ended extension of the same delay we experienced since 2017. As a basic, I would say, standard of project management, you need to have a deadline. At least they have a target to work towards. So we have been talking about some imminent delivery of master plan for public exhibition from last year, early last year. No, I just say late last year, after the pipeline issue and the flood was sort of finished. But now we are in back. Of course, at the start the first of the meeting. So I would imagine, I would expect by the end of this financial year, it will be a realistic expectation to deliver the master plan for the public. And so that's why I put an amendment to have a definite date in May 2026 for this master plan to face public. But this motion is not just about setting a deadline, it's about set up the political and strategic parameters. Take the pipeline risk, for example. We received the advice from the state early in 2025, and saying this one is now natural gas, there's minimal risk, and this is a material change for the risk profile. So while the staff, I appreciate that, now the work is ongoing. So again, so this I say like council as an elected body, so we must set the direction. So this motion is in addition to deadline. So we're asking for some common sense, especially that the 20 meters to 40 meters no-go zone for development. So and other restrictions. And personally, I object to the previous restriction for the sensitive land use, and believe we should not be any limitation at all. However, I acknowledge that's the council's resolution. What I'm asking is let's deliver it as soon as possible. Yeah. Equally critical is the flood mapping, and the fact that there's some comments about this baseline flood is not negotiable, but it does not deny there's a huge dispute in the community for the flood study. So I certainly hope, and the residents who receive this 10.7 certificate, saying their property devalued and the insurance skyrocket, to be acknowledged and addressed if possible. So in conclusion, I'm just looking for some certainty and a clear deadline to deliver a tangible outcome from the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. Councillor Pan is the second you wish to speak to this motion. Councillor Wang, sorry, if you could please turn your microphone off. Thank you.
Thanks,
Councillor Pan.
Thanks, councillors. Just very briefly in support of Councillor Wang's motion, that I along have met with a number of residents who do raise these issues and have done so for quite some time. I just wanted to reiterate that many of these residents have made long-term financial planning decisions. And again, what we're seeing is what seems like a vast amount of red tape put in their way, clouding or wanting false certainty and clarity about what the future holds. And I think, again, whether it's the pipeline, whether it's the flood mapping, whether it's talk about stormwater drainage and the use and how that interacts with the LMR and the state planning proposals, there's a lot of fuzziness, there's a lot of cloud, and I can understand, and I'm passionate about residents who are concerned about not getting their answers from this council about what really is about to happen. And I think that's, if we can hone it in, I think that's what Councillor Wang is trying to say. The residents are simply just looking for a bit of clarity and simplicity about the message and what they can expect from this council about the master plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Jamieson? You should speak against the motion, or you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. With the director, through you, Madam Mayor, please give us an approximate timeline. Do you know?
Director?
Madam Mayor and councillors, I'm very reluctant to give you an approximate timeline. I haven't necessarily, I apologise if you got the impression that this is imminent. There's actually a pretty complex set of issues interplaying with a lot of interested stakeholders. The last thing I want to do is set up an expectation that can't be delivered and then let people down once again. I appreciate there's a lot more history to this project than I've been involved in. As I've said in the director's comments, and I didn't say it with any disrespect whatsoever, we know the issues. The people have been, consultants have been charged with doing the work. We're bringing it together. We don't have budget issues or internal capacity issues. We have issues with bringing it together so that the community can have a coherent document that they understand, and we can move through the submissions period reasonably effectively, because if it's not communicated properly through a document of poorer quality, we will find more delays, which may well be about council and council staff. So unfortunately, I'm not in a position to give you a time frame. As soon as it's on the agenda, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jamieson?
So I will be speaking against this motion, and I'm simply going to read the start of the director's comments to outline my reasons why, which is the notion of motion raises matters of relevance to the Beverly Hills Master Plan, with each issue identified being progressed through existing council resolutions, technical studies and state required assessment processes. This includes the updated hazard analysis, flood impact risk assessment, review of sensitive land use controls, and revision to the draft master plan, which are well underway and approaching council reporting milestones. Accordingly, the actions proposed in the notice of motion will not accelerate and materially advance the master plan beyond the significant work already in hand. The established program of work remains the appropriate pathway to finalisation, culminating in the revised draft master plan being presented to council for public exhibition in the coming months. I also think it is relevant for me to reiterate here the response to one of the question with notices on tonight's paper, which states, it should be noted that the restriction on sensitive land uses proposed by Council's planning proposal, which will ensure that any sensitive development proposed within 200 metres of the MSC pipeline is referred to the New South Wales Planning Secretary for consideration. As such, development is not prohibited, but must undergo the referral process before consent can be determined. I remember that at the previous meeting that we requested it to be similar to Canterbury Bankstown requirement. They didn't, this far superior, far easier. I also wanted to touch on a couple of things. We're talking about, in the next motion, we're talking about raising issues with DA, and that we should, the state government should just take over and go forward. But with the local planning panel rejected the DA we've talked about next, but the state government overruled it. I want to make sure that we do it right. And in regards to that, when we did the first, we were at the tail end of the first original Mortal Beverly Hills Master Plan. When Nick Couch was in there, Chris Mittens attended the meetings, and it was about compulsory acquisition. People's houses were going to be sold from under them, and they were extremely upset. And I actually don't have a problem, because I think that was the wrong way to go about it, and that stopped it and held it back a few years. But that's to the credit of Chris Minns and to Nick Catfish, both from Labor. And I think it was important. We have to make these changes. The floods, not something that I want to hear, but again, we've got to respect that in this case, I think they're actually doing the right thing. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Jamieson. Councillor Lansbury, wishing to speak against the motion?
I do wish to speak against the motion. Thanks, Madam Mayor. I wasn't planning on speaking on this one, but I kind of just have to. Part C of the motion is really concerning to me, because it's actually quite contradictory. refines risk management controls to unlock housing supply, but then goes on to say that the sensitive land uses are hospitals, schools and childcare facilities within the 200-metre corridor. I remember standing here when we spoke about this last year, sort of saying that I think it's really negligent to want to remove that particular requirement. I do really admire Councillor Wang, your tenacity in bringing this back to us time and time again. I understand that you're advocating for your residents on this, but the reality of this is this Beverly Hills Master Plan project has been going on forever, and it has moved to probably the casual observer at a glacial pace. But as the director has said, there's additional requirements that have come into play. Now, Councillor Liu and myself would be the only two people sitting at this table now that were here for the original version of it. And we hated it. And it went back out. That was during COVID, and it's come back 3 times, I think, with the compulsory acquisition component that Councillor Jamieson just mentioned. There has been very valid reasons why it's being delayed. The very first iteration of it, we were being pressured to put it out or to endorse it without even consider. It was like that shutting the stable doors after the horse had bolted concept of let's just put it out there and deal with that more the gas pipe later. And we were like, absolutely no way. I don't care if other councils are more lenient with the way that they approach things and they have no regard for safety buffer zones for sensitive uses. I, for one, would never support removing an item like that. I think the response from the director in the printed version of this notice of motion, as well as what the director said tonight, is enough information for everybody to consider. We need to let it run its course. We had additional statutory requirements imposed on council through flood risk and the change of use for the gas pipe, and those sorts of things do move slowly. Like, it's not something that happens overnight. It was, I reckon it was 20 or 21 that we were first dealing with the version of the master plan. That would have been the first term of council. We're dealing with the first version of the master plan that we rejected as a council. And yeah, we still haven't got there yet. But what you're asking us to do with this motion is not going to progress it. As the director has said, all of us in this chamber want to see additional housing, but none of us want to see a catastrophic accident to a childcare centre, because, like, I know to be fine, Canterbury Bankstown doesn't have any restrictions, so let's not either. We could not live with ourselves if anything went wrong. And if there is even a minute outside 0.0001% of a chance, I don't care. I'm not buying into it. I think we just need to allow it to run its course. Yes, it's not coming back as quickly enough for everybody's desire, but as the director said, we're getting it in the coming months when it's ready, and hopefully when it comes back to us in that form, we'll be able to adopt it and move forward. But in the interim, trying to rush it through by making amendments like this based on removing risk management controls that we've installed for very valid reasons is completely inappropriate and negligent. I'm sorry, Councillor Wang. I know how passionate you are about it, but I think you need to listen to the experts on this one. None of us sitting here are expert planners. We've got very skilled people working in the planning department who understand this. And I'm, for one, I'm never going to question anything like that. I can question other things, but I'm never going to question that.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. We've had 2 speakers for, 2 speakers against. Councillor Liu, do you have a question?
Just a few words about it.
And have another, sorry, we've already had the 2 for, 2 against. So if you have a question, we can put that. Otherwise,
okay. Can I have a question, please?
You have a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, can I have a question like if anyone voted against this motion, it will be kind of been labeled to against the revitalization. I don't think that the answer will be no, right? Because that's only a motion. But the motion, a lot of
Councillor Liu, sorry, if you just have a question, put the question to one of the directors.
If any councillors in the chamber would vote against this motion, that it been labelled being like against the area's revitalization.
I think it's a subjective question that will be up for the community to decide. I don't
Okay.
think any of the directors can really answer
Yeah.
that one.
So that's why I'm just adding a little bit, because within the report we can see the director's comments, all the related issues being raised by Councillor Wang's motion being underway or in the process. So what we can do at the moment.
Sorry, I'm not allowing another speaker for or against, because I've prevented Councillor Arthur twice and Councillor Lansbury. So
yeah, so that's the question.
What's the question?
The question at the moment, what council can do, because all of those are underway. So is there any way we can do at the moment to really help, especially, for example, the Beverly Hills, the commuter car park. Everyone knows we want that things to be changed, right? Is any Labour councillors write to your minister, write to the premier to do any changes? That's my question.
Okay, so it's not relevant to this.
It's all right, but being recorded. I want to put it that way so the resident can think about it.
We'll put the motion. I think we've got 2 speakers for, 2 speakers against. If there's no further discussion, Councillor Wang.
So, my right to reply.
Sure.
I'm very sorry.
So, Councillor Money, do you have a question before Councillor Wang takes the right of reply? Because there'll be no further discussion after the right of reply.
If you don't mind, Councillor Wang, Madam Mayor, just a question of the director, and I accept this could be an operational question, so forgive me in advance. I was just wondering if there's an approximate number of man hours you could give us on the number of man hours that's been expended on this very cautious approach to Beverly Hills Master Plan, which I do appreciate.
That, Mayor and Councillors, no, I could not approximate that to any extent over apparently 10 years. No, wouldn't be able to do that. Sorry.
Councillor Wang, right of reply.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, so I just want to do just brief summary through the director's comments from the council's, objection and support. There's no showstopper anymore, and secondly, there's nothing related to any of the risk I'm going to remove. So we got the pipeline out of the way, we got the flood study out of the way, and what else are we waiting for? There's nothing else. Well, all we need is a proper project plan. Say, okay, how many more months, how many manpower we may need, and then give us a definite, just the ballpark figure, just to give certainty. So that's the first point I want to make. So it's not unreasonable to just ask for an estimate. So that's the first point. Second point I want to make is again the SSD and HDA. So as I had talked with director offline, there are already several SSD in Beverly Hills supported by the state government. So what we are going to have is pockets of SSD and the HDA in Beverly Hills. And you know what we end up with? The master plan will be rendered irrelevant. That's what we're going to have if we don't deliver and have a meaningful delivery. So what I'm saying here is I urge the councillors, so please consider there's no hurdles anymore, and SSD is underway. So we has the obligation to the Beverly Hills community to deliver something meaningful and have a holistic plan. So and that's what I'm asking for.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. I will put to the motion. If we could please go around the room to take the vote.
Madam Mayor.
Against.
Councillor Allison.
Against.
Councillor Anzalotti. For. Councillor Arthur.
For.
Councillor Demoski.
Against.
Councillor Gow.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
For.
Councillor Jamison.
Against.
Councillor Lansbury.
Against.
Councillor Liu.
Against.
Councillor Marnie.
Against.
Councillor Mort.
Against.
Councillor Pung.
For.
Councillor Wang.
For.
It's 8 votes against, 6 votes for.
I declare the motion lost. We move to notice of motion 00726, public notice development application status, Carlton, DA 2019-0644. Councillor Wang. Seconding that, Councillor Pan?
Yeah.
Sorry, was that Councillor Pan? Yes. Seconded by Councillor Pan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor and the councillors.
Sorry, Councillor Pan just needs to turn his mic.
Sorry, yeah. Thank you very much. First, I would like to acknowledge and thank the residents of Carlton and Hurstville who are sitting in the public gallery tonight. Thank you so much. And I want to especially take a moment to thank the residents who came to this chamber last Monday to speak to us. For those who may not realize, last Monday was Chinese New Year's Eve in the Chinese lunar calendar. So that's the most sacred day of the year. It's the Christmas Eve. So it's the night you would travel thousands of miles, just get united with your family and have the most important dinner of the year. So it's certainly not the night or the day that you want to come to this council to raise your grave concerns. The fact that they gave up the sacred family time just to show how absolutely desperate these residents are. So I urge you, councillors, tonight to show some empathy to these ratepayers. They are not here because they want to cause trouble. They're here just begging for transparency and the rule of law. I also would like to take a brief moment to sincerely thank the Council's General Counsel, Mr. James Tang. He has provided numerous pieces of productive advice on this motion, and indeed his guidance on this highly complex subject over a long period of time has been really invaluable. Of course, I would like to thank the director for helping providing the answers in the related questions notice. Thank you. Councillors, as you may have read today, today's ceremony held, so it's not allowed to show that one. And you can see from the first, this problem has caused the national interest. And the article mentioned a few things. Some of them are not accurate, but certainly raised $4.8 million from the project. And most alarmingly, it quotes a high-profile support, claiming that the current delay was simply due to technicalities between the builder and the council. Let's be very, very clear. A criminal conviction in the local court for unlawful demolition is not technicality. A 12,000 fine is not a technicality. So if you look at the screen, so what the land of, sorry, can we show the picture again? So that one. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just going to interject there. If I could just ask the General Counsel to clarify if it's a criminal conviction, as you've stated there. I just would like clarification on that. Councillor Wang, if you could just turn your microphone off so the General Counsel can respond.
Madam Mayor, the matter before the local court was prosecution, and it's criminal matter.
It's criminal. Okay, thank you. Please go ahead, Councillor Wang.
Yes, it's a crime. So let's show the picture. What has been approved? So on the top was the original building. So that's what has been proved by the court to retain the roof and the external walls. At the bottom is what is now. You have no trace of the roof or the outer wall. So the whole building structure is gone. So this is just how serious the problem is. And as some of the residents argue, retention is not a reconstruction. Retention is what the court has ruled. So you cannot just destroy a foundation, the structure of the DA, pay a fine, and expect it to just rebuild it. So this brings to the director's comments on the paper. The director suggests given this is a dedicated website, could be, and the forum could be a departure from established practice and constitutes special treatment. So I want to acknowledge that point. Yes, for a normal DA, it will be overkill. However, so this is not the normal DA, councillors. This is a development has now made the national news. It involves years of litigation, a criminal conviction, millions of dollars in community fundraising, and it has a deep ongoing impact on our residents. When a project reaches this level of metropolitan interest and controversy, standard practice is simply no longer sufficient. I've finished in 1 minute. Sorry. So council regularly put out dedicated web pages for significant development, like planning proposal. I submit this year, probably it's more significant than a planning proposal. And as a matter of fact, through this long journey of this year, the council once already put up a dedicated web page to explain to the residents the status of the legal proceedings. So that's why we need a single source of truth for the web page, and we need a forum to talk to the residents directly. And the last point, so I really want to say there's a gap between the engagement.
Please wrap up.
Yes.
We're out of time.
Yes. Okay. So that's the, and again, thanks for the residents who came, stay late for this meeting, and I ask the support from the councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. Councillor Liu.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to stand up to support the part of the motion and make the amendment accordingly. Can I read out the amendment? That a public notice be published on council's website in relation to DA 2019/040644 and 90 Botany Street, Carlton, detailing the history of the development consent issued for the site, the history of construction certificate applications associated with the site, the outcomes of council's enforcement actions in response to any non-compliance with the development consent, and an overview of the general statutory and administrative pathways by which a development consent processes to the construction stage. So that's the amendment I want to put in front.
An amendment with new Part A and Part A only, no Part B or Part
No,
C.
not Part B and Part C. Can I explain some?
I'll put it to Councillor Wang if he accepts that amendment first of all as the mover.
Yeah, of course.
Councillor Wang, do you accept that amendment as put by Councillor Liu?
I hear from the rational first before I decide, because that's just let the councillor Liu explain the amendment. Then I can digest a little bit. If you want.
No, you've got to either accept it or not, because to have it debated, you either accept it and that becomes the motion, or if not, I will call for a seconder so that amendment can be debated.
So the amendment would remove the Part B and the C, right? Just
Correct.
So why do you want to remove B and C?
Sorry, Councillor Wang, either you, if you could please just answer, do you accept the amendment or not? Sorry, excuse me, you're not allowed to come forward and you'll need to sit back down, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine, I accept that.
So Councillor Wang's accepting the amendment, and Councillor Pun as the seconder. Councillor Pun as the seconder, do you accept the amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. So that amendment becomes the motion. we've had one speaker already for the motion. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Liu, wish to speak? Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to put more details about that. Firstly, I want to, build up my position to fully acknowledge the concerns raised regarding the planning status of this development, especially the residents are being presented at the chamber today. And I fully understand that concerns and anxiety when the things that you feel unsafe or you feel uncertainty. And then I'm not, but however, I do want to place something important on the council's record. I wish to briefly raise a concern about how this issue is being framed publicly, including through certain Chinese language media outlets. Why I'm saying that, I will show you something. I think everyone would in Chinese can read it from 澳洲印象, right? So it's called the English name of this Chinese office called New Impressions Media. This article been published on the 8:31 a.m. of the 21st of February 2026, 2 days ago before the meeting. Why I'm saying that? Because within this article, I wanted to point out, both in English and in Chinese, there is a saying in Chinese, 拒绝黑箱操作，公开真相，绝非特殊待遇. That means, in English, I put my translation in here. If council wants to, double check the accuracy, you can use your professional, translator to do it. In English, that means rejecting a black box operation. That means, I don't know how that comes. They're kind of a secret a black box operation from the been named from the article, because this really reminds me something really similar that back to the year of 2021, because that's not the first time such an approach has been used. In the past, as I said, back to year of 2021, similar narratives advanced, and not through direct allegations, but through implication, suggesting secrecy or improper ways which no such finding existed. How would I support these? On those occasions, council was required to formally, that's back to 2021, council was required to formally respond, including issue written correspondence reminding. At that time, Councillor Wang was still the president of Georges River Association. This letter addressing to your name, your position, organization's name, and your residential address. This one is not secret. It's on the, at that time, it's on the council's website. What concerning me on these occasions, in the end, including council issued written correspondence reminding this community group that allegations of corruption or misconduct must be supported by evidence, and where appropriate, refer to the Independent Commission Against Corruption. That means ICAC. Given the similarity in this method, I believe it is very proper that this history be acknowledged and be relevant to correspondence being tabled, so the community can see this pattern has arisen before and how council addressed it. So tonight we talk about transparency for almost every issue, right? Transparency cuts both ways. It applies not only to council's process, but also how public narratives are constructed. So I would ask the council to table those two documents. This one in English, this one both in Chinese and in English. So I wanted to conclude. Council's role is not to escalate conflict. Actually, when these things, anxiety, uncertainty happened in the community, what our role is to guide the community through uncertainty in a way that protect both the rule of law and the public confidence. I won't speculate on individual motive. I'm not trying to criticize any particular one in here, but I will say this. When residents are anxious, our responsibility is to provide clarity and guide them through lawful processes. Any approach that turns anxiety into us versus them, that's so wrong. That's narratives does not help resolve the planning issues before us. So that's what I wanted to say. And the last question I wanted to, through the Madam Mayor, to the to Mr. James Fan, who is our General Counsel, about one of the questions in the article. If any community members genuinely believe they unlawful works render the DA legally invalid, what would be the proper course to seek, like they are going to seek independent legal advice, or council will provide this? Can I have an answer for that? Thank you.
The General Counsel.
Madam Mayor, the question of whether the development consent is valid or invalid is a matter which council ought not to consider, because it is a decision to be made upon the grant of any construction certificate or further development applications which act upon this the existing development consent. Otherwise, as to what community members may wish to seek advice about in terms of the development consent, of course they are entitled to seek their own legal advice about it, and if they wish to take action in accordance with that advice, that's a matter for each individual resident. But for council, this is a particularly, aside from the fact that it's a particularly complex matter, it is not an appropriate matter for council to comment on as to the validity of a development consent and its ability to be acted upon, subject to a particular application coming before council and that application being assessed and determined.
Thank you. To the General Counsel. Councillor Liu, do you have another question?
Yeah, one more question. Councillor Wang's speech reminds me about those article put on the Simone Herald that we can't see. It's a talk about financial funding, right? It's a talk about kind of the public fundraising. It reminds me back to, and it reminds me about that between 14 February 2020 to the 4th August 2022, almost that within that 2.5 years, Georges River Association received 201 donations, totally $95,917.23 across 2 separate accounts. These figures is not secret, being circulated like the Excel form in the Chinese social media. We talk about transparency tonight many times. I wanted to ask someone that is sitting here, maybe within that $97,000, maybe out of your pocket money, you put it into support this fundraising, right? To vote against the mosque development. I have no doubt about the movement, but I wanted to say, if anyone see any auditing report about this figure, that's really a big public funds money, because we talk about that one, right? Public funding, raising monies. So I wanted to table this one as well. So at that time, Councillor Wang still the president, but now he resigned from the president and resigned even the member of the Georges River Council. But at that time, you were. I'm pretty sure you're aware of this document, right?
We can table the items, and the time is up. So
okay,
just,
so that's why, yes.
Yeah. So, Councillor Liu, if we could table the items and conclude your comments.
I tabled it. So far, I have 3 documents been tabled officially. Any residents wants to look at it. That's not secret. That's an official record for tonight's meeting. And I wanted to say one more question I wanted to ask Councillor Wang. But as president at that time, I'm pretty sure you have been aware of this at the time, right? So after that, what steps did you, what kind of measures as a president at the time, what did you do to ensure proper oversight and transparency? Because we talk about transparency tonight. Thank you, Councillor Wang.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Wang, which will be for the right of replies, does any other councillors wish to speak for or against this motion? No? Okay, Councillor Wang. Oh, I didn't see. You wish to speak to the motion? You have to put your light on, Councillor Pun. Yes, are you speaking?
Is that on now? Yeah, it is.
That's on now.
Thank
Yes, I didn't see it on.
Councillors, I think I just want to add another inflection, and I think the basis of a lot of what Councillor Wang and Councillor Liu are sort of talking about is community accessibility. And part of the reason that I became involved in the community and politics is about bringing better government transparency and accessibility. A lot of it is to do with barriers and hurdles and understanding the nomenclature, what these processes are, what transparency is. And I can understand that it's difficult when it's not often in your own language, or you've come from a country in which those processes and that level of administration and bureaucracy aren't there. So I do want to make that point, but the other point that I wanted to labour is I just want to urge caution for the community that we shouldn't be inflaming community versus community. Australia is a nation of migrants. We are all that, and I think there is a responsibility on those people in the community to be just as accepting to those people who have fought at home, who have been here for generations, just as the people who are newly arrived in Australia would expect that love and acceptance and welcoming in return. So I just caution in this level of debate where we go and how we can treat others and in the community with the respect that they deserve, and ensure that Australia and Georges River Council remains a welcoming place for every resident, no matter where they were born.
Thank you, Councillor Pun. Councillor Wang, do you wish to take your right of reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So my reply is actually it's very simple. I just want some transparency for this issue, especially after the court hearing. There are lots of questions, speculations, and rumors, and not just for the residents turn up here against this DA, but also for the residents and community who support this DA. They coughed up $3.5 million, and they deserve the truth and the full truth, and a platform so they can learn and they can even give feedback. So when I say the public forum, so that's a platform for open discussion, open question is talking to the experts, both sides of the residents, because as I mentioned, some people saying it's just a technicality of the problem for the delay, and so it's a responsibility of the council to publish the truth. Like James mentioned, it's a crime, and so for any allegation of corruption or as Councillor Liu mentioned, ICAC is the place to go. So I don't know what the question for me is. Before my time as a councillor, I think I have a very good public record of that one. If you have any concern, go to ICAC. So go for it. I don't want to any specific to talk about it. But yeah, transparency is the way to go. I want to, and the question is, so I still have not got the answer. Why do you want to cut off part B and C just for the people to have open discussion and have an improvement of the council's process for future place of public worship? As what happened even in December, another place of public worship, we had to re-notify the neighborhood. So, and for this DI, we re-notified the neighborhood multiple times. So that means the community engagement strategy, there's some space for improvement. So that's why I put a part C, and I put a part B is just for this these people, these residents have a voice and have to be afforded the expert opinion. So that's all I have to say. So I accept the amendment, but I really wish we could have a part B and C. If can anybody explain to me why it needs to be gone? Thank you.
Okay, so that's the right of reply. If we could just reflect on the screen that the amendment is now the motion. Councillor Liu, we've had the right of reply, so I'm going to just put the motion now. No further discussion.
Oh, maybe my understanding is incorrect. I'm expecting an answer from Councillor Wang about those
Councillor,
but if you
Councillor
think
Wang,
that's
he's taken the right of reply. He's not
okay,
obliged to have
yeah,
to answer
I just try to double check. If you think that's not proper, I just simply answer it down. No problem.
Yeah,
I just won't be heard. Thank you.
It's Councillor Wang's discretion if he chooses to answer it or not. He's taking his right of reply. We're good to put the motion.
Madam Mayor,
I'm for this motion.
Councillor Allison.
For.
Councillor Anzalotti.
For.
Councillor Arthur.
For.
Councillor Demoski.
For.
Councillor Gow.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
For.
Councillor Jamieson.
For.
Councillor Lansbury.
For.
Councillor Liu.
For.
Councillor Marnie.
For.
Councillor Mort.
For.
Councillor Pung.
For.
Councillor Wang.
For.
It's 14 votes for, unanimous.
I declare the motion carried. Next on the agenda is questions with notice, questions with no notice, and councillor questions on agenda items. And the answers to these are all published in the business paper and the supplementary agenda. If you have any further questions, please submit them through the councillor hub, and an answer will be published in a future business paper. And councillors and staff, there being no further business on the agenda, I will declare the meeting closed at 9:37 p.m.